Mission Impossible is easily one of the greatest and most iconic action franchises ever made. It's definitely the most consistent franchise, and Tom Cruise seems to never disappoint. So with 8 different installments, let's review and rank all 8 movies. Starting with the first Mission Impossible movie. For this being the first Mission Impossible movie, I thought it was a solid start to the franchise. It was more grounded and serious, but it also teaches Ethan Hunt the importance and value of a team, which is something he takes with him for the rest of the series. It has one of the most iconic scenes in the whole franchise, but the one thing that I like the most about this movie is the feel. It feels like the most authentic, well-made spy movie at its core, and that is something I value, because even though the later movies are good, they can be a bit much. So the first Mission Impossible movie feels like the most legit spy movie, and I really like that, but it's definitely not perfect. One thing that I don't like about the movie is the villain. Once Ethan lost his entire team and we found out that Jim Phelps survived, it was pretty obvious that he was the villain, and that just fell flat for me. But there was also a lack of character development for pretty much everyone in this movie, but Luther is easily my favorite supporting character in the franchise. But in the end, the first Mission Impossible was solid. Not bad, not amazing either, so I give it a B rating. Now we have the most controversial movie in the entire franchise up, Mission Impossible 2.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
This for me is the weakest movie in the franchise, but it's not all bad. The rock climbing stunt by Tom Cruise in the beginning is awesome, but the action scenes are just bad. They feel very clunky. The movie is easily the most cheesiest in the entire franchise. It felt like another corny 2000s action movie, but by doing that, it lost the touch and charm of what the franchise is. I'll give John Woo credit. He tried something new, but unfortunately, just about everything fell flat for me, and the amount of slow motion for the fight scenes is just diabolical. Luther does return for the second film, and just like the first movie, he's awesome. But similar to the first film, the rest of the crew is very forgettable. The villain is slightly better in Mission Impossible 2. He's a lot like the first villain, but he at least has some personality. The worst thing for this movie is the overuse of the masks. It seems like every 10 minutes, somebody is pulling off a mask as a twist.
Because I'm the funny one.
Not on this show, you're not.
Or am I?
Mission Impossible 2 is the most forgettable film in the franchise for me, so for that reason, I'm going to give it a D. Mission Impossible 3 is the best in the franchise so far, and a big reason why is that the villain for this movie is awesome, played by the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was the perfect villain for Ethan Hunt because Ethan tries to do as much good as he can, and his team's safety is his top priority, but Davian is cold, heartless, and doesn't give a fuck. He's just pure evil and has no limits. He enjoys attacking Ethan personally, which also drives up tension and character development. We meet Ethan's wife, Julia, in this movie, which is great because it allows us to get to know Ethan better, which also gives us more reason to care about his character and adds emotional depth. Mission Impossible really capitalizes on a strong villain and making the emotional stakes and tension higher than ever. The pacing is tight and on point. It's not all over the place. It's straight and to the point, which I really like. They did a really good job of bringing Ethan a supporting cast that feels human. Luther is good, and you really see Ethan and Luther's friendship grow in this film. Declan and Zen aren't great, but they're not robots stuck in the background either. We are introduced to Simon Pegg's character Benji, who's one of the most beloved characters in the franchise, but his role is very limited in this movie. But Mission Impossible 3 is probably the most underrated movie in the franchise, and I think it's better than the first 2 movies, so I'm going to put it in A tier. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is the start of the modern Mission Impossible movies, and the movie is fire. It's not perfect, but it's damn good. Simon Pegg as Benji really shines in this movie. Ethan and Benji are going undercover in the beginning is some of the best prosthetic work in the series. Their disguises are simple but effective, and I like how they barely speak and let the disguise do all the talking. Jeremy Renner is introduced in this film, and his character is the spy who couldn't stop Ethan's wife from being killed. We later find out that Ethan faked her death because they realized that they're better off separated for their own safety. So that twist isn't my favorite because William Brandt spent the entire movie in regret just for Ethan to tell him that his wife was never killed. Paula Patton gives a solid performance because in the beginning of the movie, someone she loved was gunned down, so there was a great emotional connection from the beginning. He also gets revenge from the assassin who killed the guy in the beginning with an awesome fight scene. Ghost Protocol also has amazing chases and stunts, specifically the Burj Khalifa stunt. That stunt was really intense, but also had one of the funniest lines in the franchise between Tom Cruise and Jeremy Renner.
Your line's not long enough! No shit!
That scene was also followed up with one of the funniest save sequences when Tom Cruise clanks his head and nearly falls off the Burj Khalifa. But in all reality, the Burj Khalifa scene is one of the best scenes in the franchise. It's super intense and the stakes are only increased as the scene goes on. But the looming negatives about this movie are the villains. Hendrix is the main big bad villain and he is just so mid. He does well as posing as an actual threat because he wants to bomb the entire world with nukes. But outside of that, his lack of character makes him very forgettable and mid. But Ghost Protocol as a movie is a great start to the new style of Mission Impossible, so I'm going to give it an A. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is one of the best installments in the entire franchise, and dare I say it's one of my favorites. This movie introduces a lot of new things, including the last director change in the franchise as Christopher McQuarrie takes over the next 4 films, but Ethan is receiving his next mission, but it just so happens that the Syndicate is there and their leader, Solomon Lane, captures Ethan. Then the rest of the film has Ethan and his team uncovering all the secrets behind the Syndicate, and since we know so little about the Syndicate, the movie feels like one big mystery as Ethan and his team uncover the Syndicate's mystery one by one. This movie has some really good twists and turns, like the British government being responsible for creating the Syndicate, and the mystery file they spent the entire movie chasing was filled with billions of dollars that the Syndicate wanted to fund their terrors. This movie does a great job of tying up different plot elements to make one smooth sailing story, like Ethan being tracked down by the CIA when the IMF disbands, or Ilsa's plotline of being a semi-rogue undercover agent, or the main Syndicate storyline. But at first, they are all kind of jumbled out there, but as the story progresses, they form one big storyline that has a satisfying conclusion at the end of the movie. Also, the new character added in this movie are some of the best characters in the franchise. Solomon Lane is a creepy, ruthless villain that imposes as a threat to Ethan instantly and seems to outsmart him every step of the way. He gives Ethan great character development because he is consistently testing him throughout the movie. John Harris gives a bone-chilling performance as Solomon Lane and is one of the most memorable villains in the entire franchise.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Ilsa is my favorite character in the franchise aside from Ethan and Luther, and her story is very intriguing. And as the story goes on, we learn more about her. We learn that she's a undercover spy posing as a Syndicate member, and her loyalty is constantly tested by Solomon Lane throughout the movie. She has different opportunities to kill Ethan, but she doesn't because we learn that she's just like him. She can't get herself to kill someone who hasn't done anything wrong for the sake of the mission. We do learn that Ilsa doesn't want to be undercover anymore, but her handler will deny her existence if she doesn't prove to Lane that she's a committed member. But she stays true to her morals and joins up with Ethan to help take down Solomon Lane and the Syndicate. Rebecca Ferguson kills it as Ilsa, and her acting is top notch. She's a very memorable character, especially in the opera scene. This movie mainly targets Ethan and Ilsa's journey. Benji, Brant, and Luther do have important side quests. Benji is working behind the scenes with Ethan, while Luther and Brant try to find Ethan before the CIA does, and these two characters have some hilarious moments together. But at this point in the series, the franchise knows what it is, and they stick closely to that. The action and stunts are top notch, it's very exciting and intense, and the comedy is on point. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is easily the best movie so far, and my personal second favorite in the entire series. So with that being said, I'm going to give it an easy S tier. Mission Impossible Fallout is a direct sequel to Rogue Nation, and it's awesome. Fallout is personally my favorite movie in this entire franchise because it gives Ethan a full character arc along with some excellent villains. In the opening dream sequence, we truly see what Ethan is going through. He feels a ton of guilt and is even doubting his line of work, thinking that he is hurting the people that are closest to him more than he helps them. It's truly heavy stuff, and it really takes a toll on him because his number one priority is to protect his team, which is how he lost the plutonium because he couldn't bring himself to sacrifice Luther. He also feels guilt about his wife and how she will be affected for the rest of her life and even the CIA will test him by bringing in Agent Walker to be a part of Ethan's mission so the CIA can keep an eye on him. However, Agent Walker will stop at nothing for the sake of the mission. This has Ethan's doubts growing in his head and even questions if he should just hang him up and let someone else protect the world.
Right.
But his friends remind him that he values the ones he loves over everything, and that makes him the right person for the job because when he saves them, he saves the entire world. Ethan's character arc works very well and gives him plenty of new challenges because the villains are fantastic in this film. Solomon Lane and August Walker are the best villains in the franchise, hands down. Lane can't stand Ethan and he wants revenge on Ethan, so he goes after the people Ethan cares about. He specifically targets Ethan's wife, Julia, and Lane is just pure evil and psychotic as the previous entry. August Walker is the twist villain, and looking back at it, watching this movie again, I like the twist because it's not too far in, and it's also not a last second surprise villain either. We find out right about halfway through, and he has also showed antagonist traits early on, so it wasn't a full shock. But Henry Cavill delivers on an outstanding performance because he's super intimidating and he steals the show for me personally. That final showdown between Walker and Ethan is peak and is one of my favorite final showdowns out there. They even gave Henry Cavill the Two-Face treatment. But the Mission Impossible franchise peaked with this movie, and unfortunately Dead Reckoning follows this film, but Fallout is easily my favorite in the franchise, so it gets an easy S. Oh boy. Out of all the modern Mission Impossible movies, this one is my least favorite, mainly because it's a two-part film, even though it does have a full ending at the end of the movie, and the villain for me flat out sucks. I like the idea of having AI be the final big bad villain, but it doesn't work for me in this movie. The AI feels underdeveloped as a severe threat, and the spokesperson of the entire entity, Gabriel, falls flat for me. The movie forces a bunch of new history that Ethan and Gabriel had years ago, and it feels incredibly forced. Since Gabriel is just a goon and isn't tied to anything, he is very forgettable. There are times that I don't hate the main AI villain because it always outsmarts Ethan every step of the way, and it goes after Ethan's best friends because that's what he cares about most. And the AI does succeed because it had Gabriel go after and kill Elsa.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
I'm very saddened that they chose to kill her off because she was one of my favorite characters, and her death felt forced and something just felt off about it for me. But Ethan was tested because he had to keep Gabriel alive to successfully complete the mission, but the best part of the movie was easily the motorcycle jump and train sequence. Tom Cruise always finds a way to entertain the audience with insane stunts that nobody would dare to try. He also seems to find a way to make the stunts better and more epic as the movies go on. But with that being said, I really don't like this movie, but it's better than Mission Impossible 2, so I'll put Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Naughty, naughty, you teasing me, you naughty, naughty.
Oh, never mind, Dead Reckoning in C tier, The Final Reckoning. This movie hasn't even been out for a full week, and I'm keeping this spoiler free so you don't have to worry about spoilers. But this movie is getting a lot of hate right now, and I personally don't understand the hate. The main criticism about this movie was the runtime and that the first hour dragged, but I disagree. I think the pacing was fine. It explained the 2-month jump and where everyone and how Ethan was going to take down the entire entity for the last 2/3 of the movie, and man, they delivered in the last 2/3 of the movie. It just reminds you that Tom Cruise at the age of 62 is still willing to put his life and body on the line to do insane, never seen before stunts, and the airplane scene is easily the best stunt in the entire franchise. It's super intense and will have you scared for Tom Cruise's actual life. The trailer doesn't do it justice. The airplane stunt is truly breathtaking in theaters. I heard some complaints about the submarine scene and that it was way too long, but I completely disagreed. The submarine scene was amazing and it was also very terrifying. If you're scared of deep sea or claustrophobic, then this scene isn't for you. But Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is a solid end to an amazing franchise, and it still proves that Tom Cruise will do anything for the sake of entertaining audiences. He is truly a movie star, and he's one of a kind. And for those reasons, I'm ranking The Final Reckoning as an A-tier movie.
Big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
Mission Impossible is my favorite action franchise of all time, and it's sad to see it go. The franchise has been so consistent and dominant for 30 years. We will truly never see a run like this ever again. But anyway, that's all from me. If you liked the video, hit the like button, comment your guys' thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.